So this beautiful woman is David's girlfriend? They had a fight? She zipped up her jacket and rolled her eyes at Ethan. Not a minute passed before David hurried in. He crouched in front of the beautiful woman and coaxed, "Didn't you say you won't get another tattoo after the last one because it hurt too much?" She replied indifferently, "What's it to you?" He whispered, "So what do you want to get tattooed this time?" "Me, a picture of me and your girlfriend." Ethan fanned the flames, eager to watch the drama unfold. David paused, then nodded. "Okay, then tattoo Emily Wilson for me too." Ethan's face instantly darkened. "Are you out of your mind?" Later, the beautiful woman was carried away by David. As she passed by, she didn't forget to hint to me, "Sis, there's a chance. It's a sure win." My thoughts were racing, influenced by her words, and the idea of testing the waters took hold. I crouched down, clutching my stomach, tears in my eyes. "Brother, my stomach hurts again." The fact that Aunt Flo was in town was real, but the painful cramps were a pretense. Without a word, he turned to make some brown sugar water. I shook my head. "Brother, I want to rest." He carried me back to my room, propping himself up beside me like he used to, his burning palm resting through my nightgown on my belly. The warmth spread quickly through my body like tendrils, my ears and neck flushing. I buried my face in his chest, whispering, "Ethan, let's not date early, okay?" I couldn't help but bite my lip hard. "Okay," he replied, surprisingly agreeable, but I, greedily pushing the limits, asked for more. "Can you wait for me then?" His chin rested on my head, and after a long pause, he whispered, "Okay." It seemed we reached an unspoken agreement. Some things don't need to be articulated, both sides already understand. On the day of the college entrance exam, Aunt Amanda Clark and Ethan came to see me off together. I heard that what parents wear when sending their kids to exams is significant, so for the first day she dressed in a bright red cheongsam, pulling Ethan along in a red t-shirt, hoping for a good start. They stood at the door, both strikingly attractive. Seeing my nerves, Aunt Amanda handed me a thermos. "Have a sip to calm your nerves, have a smooth journey." It was sweet. It felt as though the sugar water I drank in the hospital was just yesterday. Ethan double-checked my pencil case, making sure nothing was forgotten. "You can fly without worry. There's no dead weight here." I laughed, my tension easing instantly. On the way to find the examination room, I bumped into my classmate. He came over. "What a coincidence. Were those your parents I saw at the entrance?" I proudly puffed my chest. "My mom and my brother." He looked at me and said, "Does your family cast aside those who aren't good-looking?" I paused and feigned a sigh. "Isn't that the case?" We exchanged looks and burst into laughter. "You won't fall asleep during the exams this time, right?" "Hey, I wouldn't dare. If I do, my brother will dissect me alive when I get back." I was surprised. "Your brother studies forensic science?" He nodded. "University of Central Florida." If I had known earlier, I would have paid more attention to the senior's lecture. Chatting and joking along the way, it felt more like an everyday exam than a big event. All 3 days went smoothly. After the last exam, the tension I had held onto was finally released, and exhaustion washed over me. Ethan teased that I looked like I had been drained of all life. After dinner, he had to leave on a sudden business trip out of town, while Aunt Amanda baked cookies for me in the kitchen. Tied with an apron, her face was serene and seemingly untouched by time. I hugged her. "Thank you, Mom. Are you making quite a lot this time?" She stroked my head with her clean hand. "Just making some extra. Take your time to enjoy it. Our Emily has been working hard." Her cookies tasted amazing. Sharing them with my roommates before, they couldn't stop singing praises. I watched her quietly, the warm lighting outlining a soft atmosphere, and the warm memories flooded my mind, stringing together. Her gentle nagging softened my years. The last batch of cookies was finally taken out of the oven. Mom turned her head, searching for the empty plate she had prepared. Odd. Where did I put it just now? I was groggy with sleep, too drowsy to react. It wasn't until Mom found the plate in her own hand that she let out a sigh. I'm getting older, and my memory isn't what it used to be. After all the cookies were on the plate, it was getting late. I urged Mom to go get some rest. She shook her head. "Emily, you go to sleep first. I'm not tired yet." Seeing her insistence, I yawned, struggling to keep my heavy eyelids open. "Mom, I'm going to bed then." She looked at me tenderly. "Go ahead, dear." Halfway to my room, I remembered something and turned back. After the exam, they didn't ask how I did, worried it might pressure me. But I wanted to feel confident just once. I whispered in Mom's ear, "Mom, I think I did really well this time. We can use the scholarship to go on a trip together. Let's go see the ocean." Mom once said she wanted to collect seashells by the seashore. She couldn't help but laugh and pulled me into her embrace. "Oh, well done, Emily. You're so smart." The scent of Mom's fragrance filled my nose. Her embrace was warm and comforting. Without knowing why, the words slipped out, "Mom, I love you." I felt embarrassed right after saying it and ran off. What I didn't see was her standing there stunned as her eyes slowly reddened. It took a long time before she could speak with a hoarse voice. "Emily, Mom loves you too." I rushed to my room, hurried through my bedtime routine, and collapsed onto the bed. My eyes were spinning with fatigue, and within minutes I fell into a deep sleep. Once alone, Aunt Amanda Clark's energy just collapsed, and she looked utterly exhausted. She walked to the osmanthus tree and stood there for a long time. The wind chime at the tip of the branch, long forgotten, had gathered dust after being exposed to wind and sun. She reached for it, but a gust of wind bent the tip before her, and the porcelain wind chime fell to the ground, shattering into pieces. She blinked. Tears fell unexpectedly. Her heart felt as if a piece had been viciously carved out. In her mind, there were two voices. One comforted her, saying, "It's been hanging here so long with no one touching it, it must not have been that important. It's okay now that it's broken." The other, cutting through the gradually fading memories, reminded her, "This was once something very important to you." She stood on tiptoe, arms wide, dancing a forgotten dance, missing steps here and there. Suddenly, she muttered, "See, I've almost forgotten everything. What's the point of living if you can't remember anything?" These past years, she forced herself to take medication to avoid worrying her children, swallowing handfuls of pills while her hair was falling out in secret. While it seemed she was getting better, it was because she was forgetting, slowly losing those painful memories. People often live self-destructively in a state of peaceful oblivion. She fooled everyone but couldn't fool herself. Over time, those memories had fused with her, and in losing the pain, she was also losing herself. Her pale fingers touched the leaves, eaten away by pests. "I'm sorry, I didn't notice you were sick." She found some leftover pesticide at home, carefully sprayed the infected osmanthus tree first, then took the rest of the bottle back to her room. Inside the room, the woman lay on the bed, neatly dressed. An empty medicine bottle was in the trash can. Accompanied by intense pain, she began to hallucinate. In a haze, she thought she heard someone calling her name, "Auntie Autumn, Auntie Autumn." A voice so familiar, yet it had been many years since she had been called that way. The person from her memories had sacrificed himself on a rainy night 5 years ago. No funeral, no tombstone, not even an occasion to mourn. She opened her eyes, and from the blurred white light, a tall man with a clear and resolute face approached. "Ethan, have you come to take me with you?" A slow smile curved her lips as she reached out her hand towards the man. In reality, there was nothing in the room. Eventually, her arm fell limply, and the figure on the bed closed her eyes. The door remained closed, and no one entered for the rest of the night. 33 life seems to carry an endless undertone of sadness and desolation. When you start recalling memories of another person, it often signifies the end of your time with them. Regrettably, I didn't understand this truth back then. Just during an ordinary morning, Mom fell asleep and never woke up. She had taken pills, and by the time she was found, it was too late to save her. A brief farewell letter was left on the bedside table. "Ethan, Emily, I'm sorry to leave this way, but death isn't the end of life. Forgetting is. If to continue living means to forget, then I have been dead for a long time, and it was only discovered later. This choice was made by me a long time ago. Don't grieve for me. We all have our paths to walk. I am happy to have been part of your journey, but I can only walk with you thus far. There is someone waiting for me. He's been waiting for a long time. He waited for me to see this world and join him, and I can't bear to let him be alone in another world. Emily, I want you to know, I love you. You were never a burden to me. You fulfilled my regrets. Having such a lovely daughter in the last years of my life has been my honor. I'm sorry I never attended your parent-teacher meetings. It wasn't that I didn't want to. I had often fantasized about standing by your side, proudly introducing myself as Emily Wilson's mother. Yet, I didn't know how to answer others if they asked about me after I was gone, and I didn't want to cause you more pain. Emily, be brave, dear. You are a wonderful child, and I am proud of you. Lastly, I love you. Ethan, I owe you an apology. My selfishness and cowardice hindered your pursuit of your dreams. It was my fault. You have grown up and can take responsibility for yourself. Do what you wish. I won't hold you back anymore. Please also say sorry to David for me. I apologize for being unjustly angry with him from the start. Lastly, I love you too. I just fell asleep, and when I woke up, Mom was gone. Ethan was just on a trip, and by the time he returned, Mom was gone. It turns out some of us have already had our last encounter with someone without realizing it. My frail mom was pushed into a metallic room and came out in a small square box. At the sight of the urn, my numb, stunned emotions could no longer be held back. I broke down in tears, feeling as if my chest was being torn apart by knives, an overwhelming bitterness storming through me, blurring my vision with tears. Ethan hugged me with red eyes, saying nothing. Around the hall there were sounds of wailing and sorrow. Some people fainted, while others wept silently. An elderly person with a walking stick conducted the tragic rite of a white-haired person sending off a black-haired one. A pregnant woman collapsed in grief over her husband's misfortune, and a 2-year-old child, innocently sucking on a lollipop, watched bewildered as their mother was pushed through a door, never to return. All beings suffer, showcasing the silence and bleakness of existence, a veritable purgatory. All sudden departures are preceded by long foreshadowing. Uncharacteristically agreeing to see a doctor, the increasingly noticeable effects of treatment, the reluctance to attend parent-teacher meetings, no longer dancing under the tree, standing aimlessly at the door, the extra cookies prepared. All had been signs. I was simply too foolish to notice. After handling Mom's posthumous affairs and returning home, nothing had changed, yet everything was different. By the window, books were neatly stacked against the wall. A gentle draft slipped through the half-opened window, turning the pages of 100 Years of Solitude lying on the table with frayed edges from being often flipped. The wind made a rustling sound, as if whispering through the leaves. Incomplete readings awaited someone who would no longer return. The books were there, but the person was not. I sat in the kitchen, eating Mom's cookies one after another, my eyes dry and sore. I love sweets, and Mom had said she put lots of sugar in them this time. But why couldn't I taste anything? They were tasteless, except for the saltiness of my tears. So I stuffed my mouth desperately until my empty stomach began to cramp and churn, making me feel nauseous. Stop eating. Please listen. Ethan's voice was wet with tears. I couldn't hear him, continuing to stuff my mouth full. Until he couldn't bear it anymore, pulling the cookies away from me, he dragged me to the bathroom and forced me to vomit. Let go of me. If I finish the cookies, Mom will come back and make new ones. She promised to go to the beach with me. If I had known, I wouldn't have said those 3 words. I love you. If I had saved my love you and told her slowly over time, would she not have left so decisively? Emily Wilson! She's not coming back. Mom is indeed gone. He suddenly grasped my shoulders, his voice tense, stating the painful truth. I stared blankly at him, and there was Ethan Clark, lips pressed tight, pale-faced, the pain in his eyes no less than mine. Yes, she was Ethan's mother first, before she became mine. How could he not be in pain? He just never said it out loud. I slowly lowered my head and whispered, "Sorry, I understand." His eyes reddened, but no tears fell. He gently wrapped his arms around me, rested his head against my neck, his shoulders shaking, the hot dampness spreading on the fabric as if burning into my very being. He said, "Don't be afraid. You still have me." Some paths in life are walked with tears. After eating half a bowl of porridge, Ethan ushered me into the bedroom. "Get some rest. You haven't had a good sleep in a long time." I held onto his hand, unwilling to let go, so he lay beside me. For a long time, we could still hear each other's breathing. He touched my head. "Can't sleep?" I was staring blankly at the ceiling, tears streaming down, feeling like they would never end. I'm scared to sleep. I was afraid to wake up and find that even the last person beside me had disappeared. He silently stretched out his hand, gently touching the corner of my eye, his thumb wiping away the trail of tears. I said, "Ethan, You're all I have now. He replied, I know, and I will not leave. Moonlight streamed in through the window, the yard outside empty, the alley cold and quiet. The clock on the wall ticked on, accompanied by the occasional bark of a dog, all loneliness shrouded in an imperceptible haze. 35. The next day, when I woke up, the spot beside me was empty and my heart clenched. I stumbled down the stairs. Only when I heard a familiar voice at the bottom did I slow down. Brother, that gang has shown up again. The last batch that was caught belonged to them. Officer David sat on the couch, his clothes wrinkled, looking exhausted. Ethan sat opposite with a solemn expression. Almost the moment he heard my footsteps, the conversation stopped. David subtly changed the subject. Oh, the little sister woke up? The college entrance exam really takes it out of you. You should rest for a few more days. By the way, where's Aunt Amanda? Did she go out to buy groceries? Remembering something, his brows furrowed in anger. The people in the alley are too malicious with their rumors, without any regard for limits. They told me, Aunt Amanda. Seemingly realizing the word carried bad luck, he didn't finish his sentence. A heavy silence filled the living room. David looked at me, then at the person opposite, and said in confusion, Why is no one talking? It's true, Ethan Clark said calmly. He froze for a few seconds, his expression gradually stiffening with disbelief. No, what kind of joke is this? He was fine. I was only gone for a few days. Anyway, I don't believe it. Is it that Aunt Amanda doesn't want to see me? Then I'll just leave. My skin is thick. I can come back when she's no longer angry, can't I? His voice grew sour as he spoke, his vision blurring for a moment. He reached for the jacket behind him, trying to put it on, but his hands trembled, and he failed to zip it up several times. She asked me to say sorry to you. She didn't mean to take out her anger on you, Ethan conveyed. Stop it. I don't believe a word, came the bitter response. Officer David wasn't ready to accept the truth, so he chose to escape, leaving without managing to zip up his jacket. I understood how he felt. After all, we had similar experiences. He had no parents, and I might as well have had none. He saw all the kindness Aunt Amanda had shown him over the years. He may not have spoken it, but in his heart, he treated her as his own mother. But life is like that. You fear something, and it comes. You hope for something, and it's nothing. Just like the snippets of conversation I overheard. Although I didn't understand what was being discussed, it made me feel an inexplicable panic. This unease proved to be a premonition, as Ethan became busier and busier, often leaving early and returning late, and even the tattoo shop was closed. His jet-black eyes grew deeper by the day, and sometimes a glance from them, so chillingly cold, was startling. It seemed that after his mother left, he changed. As the vines that had tightly bound him withered away, the fierceness hidden under a gentle facade became increasingly pronounced, his claws and teeth slowly baring, the wildness in him no longer contained. The distance between us grew. He said he wouldn't leave, but it seemed he was about to break that promise. At night, I sat on the sofa waiting for him until I heard the familiar sound of his motorcycle drawing near. The bike stopped in the yard, but he didn't immediately get off. At the door, I saw him, his long legs crossed, leaning against the bike with a cigarette between his fingers, his sharp profile softened by the falling ash. The shadows around him blocked out the light. Seeing it was me, he stamped out the cigarette, and the emotion in his eyes faded, replaced by a clear, soft light. Why haven't you slept? I was waiting for you. I walked up to him and lightly hooked my pinky finger around his icy right one, pretending to be casual as we started walking forward. The next second, he forcibly separated my fingers, gripping my hand until our fingers were interlocked. His voice had a hint of amusement. Let's go. I quietly lightened my breath to quell the hammering in my chest, but my grip on his hand grew tighter. We held hands all the way until he locked the door, went upstairs, and eventually into the bedroom to get his pajamas. When he reached the drawer, he coughed lightly. I turned my head and closed my eyes, signaling to him, "Keep getting your things. Don't mind me. I won't look." The drawer slid open quickly and was pushed shut. I followed him to the bathroom door, still not letting go of his hand. It was as if only by feeling each other's warmth could my anxious heart find peace. He looked down, his eyes meaningfully signaling, "I'm going to take a shower now." I hummed in acknowledgement. He raised an eyebrow, emphasizing, Not just washing up, a shower. I defended myself. I know. He shook our interlocked hands, his eyes clearly saying, "You know, and yet you won't let go." "Can I cover my eyes and not look?" "No," he glanced at me coolly. "What if you don't close the door?" "That's not an option either," he blushed slightly. My eyelids fluttered. Suddenly I suggested, "Maybe you don't need to shower tonight." He looked at me, shocked, with an indescribable expression. "No." In the end, I reluctantly sat by the closed frosted glass bathroom door, unable to see anything outside. He couldn't see me from the inside unless I pressed close against the door. Only then could my silhouette be seen. So I sat with my back to the bathroom, my palm against the door, occasionally asking, "Can you see me?" "Yes, I can." Time passed. "Can you see me now?" "Yes, I can." And after a while longer. "I can see you. Always can," he reassured. I fell silent. He quickly finished a quick shower and came out. Dressed in long clothes with sleeves, drops of water dripped from his black bangs down his chin into his collarbone. He pulled me up from the floor and looked at me. "You're like a little pervert tonight." I couldn't argue. I was guilty. So I followed him into the bedroom, ready to prove the accusation true. We had slept in our clothes many times, mostly in my room, with me insisting he stay. His room was a simple black, white, and gray, unlike mine. I climbed into bed, uninvited, squeezing next to him. I reached for his hand and held it tight. He seemed contemplative. "What's gotten into you tonight?" I bit my lip, silent, playing with his fingers. Just when he thought I wouldn't answer, I suddenly spoke up. "Are you leaving?" Time stood still. Every second of his hesitation was like a long wait before an execution. His voice was hoarse. Are you going to be a police officer?" I know you're an officer, just like Officer David. Are you going to work in another city?" "Take me with you, please." "Whatever city you go to, I'll apply to a university there." "My grades are good enough. I promise I'll behave and be smart. I'm of age now. I can work part-time and earn money. I won't be a burden. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, I want to study forensic science. After graduation, I might even have a chance to work with you. We could still be together. Maybe I could help you with cases, just like in the TV shows." I blurted out all the possibilities I could think of, my words becoming more and more incoherent. "No," he said, stunned by my outpouring.